Welcome back to the Ancestral Findings podcast. Many thanks, Will. You have rekindled my 40-year quest to find my family origins. Your weekly letters are greatly appreciated. That's what Bryan wrote to me, and I've thought about it ever since. A note like that carries more than polite thanks. It carries the weight of a lifetime of searching. 40 years is no small thing, and to know that something I wrote sparked his curiosity again. That reminded me why we do this work. Those of us who've been at family history for a long time remember what it used to be like. There was no internet, no quick searches, no DNA kits you could order online. Research meant hours in libraries with rolls of microfilm, hoping your eyes wouldn't blur before you found what you needed. It meant writing letters to courthouses and archives and waiting weeks, sometimes months, for a reply that often came back saying the record wasn't there. It was slow and sometimes discouraging, but it taught patience. That's the thing about long searches. They don't really end when you stop for a while. Life gets in the way, careers, children, health. But the flame never goes out completely. It just waits for the right spark. That's what Bryan meant when he said his quest was rekindled. He hadn't abandoned it. It was always there, resting, ready to come back to life. I've seen this happen to many people. One woman told me she had been trying to discover her great-grandmother's maiden name for decades. She searched courthouses, Bibles, census records, you name it. Then, one night, while scrolling through a newly digitized collection online, she found the answer she'd been searching for in minutes. Her joy was as fresh as if she'd just started her research the day before. Another man set his genealogy aside for nearly 20 years while raising his kids. When he picked it up again after retirement, he was astonished at what had changed. What used to take him months of letters could now be done in an afternoon. He laughed and said, "If I'd had these tools back then, I would have been finished in no time, but maybe I wouldn't appreciate it like I do now." And that's another truth I've learned. Time itself changes us, and that shapes how we read records. A 25-year-old researcher might look at a census record and jot down the names and ages, but come back to it at 65, after raising a family of your own, and you see more. You understand the noise in a house full of children, the work that went into feeding them, the weight of migration, the resilience it took to survive. The record hasn't changed, but we have. I know a man who almost gave up after failing to trace his Italian ancestors. He could never make progress beyond a few records. Then one day, while visiting Italy, he decided to stop in the village his great-grandparents came from. In the cemetery, he saw rows of headstones with his family's surname. He met locals who shared that same name, some of them distant cousins. That one trip lit his fire again, and he came home with new photos, recordings, and clues that carried him further than he ever thought possible. Another woman told me she pulled her files out of storage after her granddaughter asked her a simple question. Where do we come from? That's all it took. What once felt like a dusty hobby became a mission to create a gift for the next generation. For those who started decades ago, the tools we have today are astonishing. Digitized archives, DNA testing, online communities, all of it has changed what's possible. But here's the catch. Now we face too much information instead of too little. And while that can feel overwhelming, it's also where the old habits of patience and persistence make the difference. Those skills never go out of style. If you've set your research aside, maybe for years, maybe for decades, Bryan's story is proof that it's never too late. The records are still there. Your ancestors are still waiting. And in many cases, the very brick wall that stopped you years ago may already have a door in it now, thanks to new collections or DNA matches. The best way to return is to start small. Pick one ancestor. Review the notes you made before. You'll often see things now that you missed back then. Try out DNA if you haven't yet, or revisit archives you couldn't access before. They may be online now. And share your work. Talking with other researchers, whether in a society or an online group, has a way of keeping the enthusiasm alive. The important thing to remember is that family history is not a race. Every little discovery matters, and the journey is part of the reward. Bryan's 40-year quest is important not just because of what he found, but because he kept searching. That determination is part of his family's legacy. His grandchildren will look back one day and see more than the names he recorded. They'll see the story of a man who refused to stop looking. That's what makes family history powerful. We're not only writing about the people who came before us, we're adding our own story to the chain. Every time we search, pause, and return again, we create something that future generations can learn from. So if you've been away from your research, let this be your reminder. The trail may be overgrown, but it's still there. All it takes is one step back onto the path, and who knows? That step might lead to the discovery you've been waiting on for decades. If you've got a hard-to-find ancestor you're stuck on, I'd love to hear about it. Just head over to ancestralfindings.com and click on Contact to send me a message. While you're there, take advantage of our free weekly genealogy lookups. Explore thousands of articles and enjoy hundreds of podcast episodes. We've been helping family history researchers since 1995. And if you're looking for even more, check out our Genealogy Gold Q&A series over on Patreon. Thanks for listening. And as always, happy searching.